Hi, and welcome back to Hope Restored Lessons from the Storms. We appreciate your liking and subscribing to us on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube. We also enjoy hearing from you, so please continue to send your comments, questions, suggestions, and prayer requests to us at podcast@hoperestored.org. Today's podcast is titled, No Break for You. We returned home from the tornado response in Moore, Oklahoma, late Monday night, June 10th of 2013. Susan and I were totally exhausted, and we were so ready for a little break. We were excited to find that we had an invitation for the next day for a luncheon. So we went to the luncheon, and boy, it was fun. We enjoyed the fellowship, and it was such an encouraging presentation. As we left, we looked to our north, and we saw a plume of smoke, and it looked like it was coming up from the Black Forest area. And we looked at each other and said almost in unison, "No break for you." Well, the fire grew, and we went out and helped evacuate a family and their chickens. And within days, we were in the disaster relief center. And we were talking to families who had lost their homes to the fire. We started signing up work orders and quickly realized the devastation was far too large for our little tiny ministry. So once again, the same as in the previous year, we called a large disaster relief ministry, who we also volunteer for as site management. And again, as in the previous year, they committed and sent resources to us. We had the honor to help with volunteer coordination for 6 weeks of response. Volunteers from within Colorado and volunteer site managers from all over the country came to help lead teams and assess. Local volunteers just flooded the church. God provided a large church to house the site management volunteers who came from across the country, leadership of supplies and volunteers. This is a scenario that we have seen and continue to see repeated across the country as God's people rise up to serve in communities that are in distress. God is faithful. The proclamation is made over and over again throughout the Bible. Grab a paper and a pen real quick and write these down, and I'd really love for you to look these up later and to read them. In fact, read the entire chapters. I'm going to give you just verses. But read Psalm 36:5, Psalm 89:8, Psalms 119, verse 90, and Lamentations chapter 3, verses 22 through 23. We can experience and recognize God's greatness and faithfulness in a time of disaster. We can be quick to realize that God provides the resources, people, and abilities, and the opportunities to serve within a community. However, sometimes we lose track of what it's really all about. Sometimes we get caught up in restoring people's possessions, position, power, or prosperity, when the reality is that God's great and awesome faithfulness is really about responding to the personal disaster of bondage, of sin, and eternal separation from God. As we close up, we have a few questions we'd like to leave you with, just to ponder and meditate on. What are your personal disasters? How have you seen God move in those disasters? Have you been able to look beyond the physical response and see the relational response from God? And finally, how will you deliberately think and intentionally act to respond to a personal disaster so that you can focus on deepening your personal relationship with God? Well, that's all that we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, for liking and subscribing to us on your favorite podcast platform and YouTube. And again, please be sure to send us your comments, questions, prayer requests, or suggestions to us at podcast@hoperestored.org. Thanks again, and until next time, blessings.